Okay, I'm taking a look at an improved motor. This is a two-spring motor, typical of the Victrola 9, the Victrola 11. A lot of machines that use this motor. All of the Victrola 6s made after 1918. This is the single spring barrel with 217. In this case, because it is a 9, it has two 17-foot springs in it. It would have, like, I believe, 9-foot springs for the 6, 12-foot springs for the 8, and 17-foot for everything else. Much to my surprise, it seems that somebody has serviced this motor in the not too distant past. It has modern grease on it. It has signs of obvious cleaning. And when I opened up the spring barrel, even though the report on this was it was thumping and bumping, and I see fresh grease in here, but this is what I suspect. I think somebody did not want to remove the springs, so they just put fresh grease inside with the old grease in the springs. You really can't do that because the old grease is not going to rehydrate. It's just going to sit there and continue to stick. So I'm going to take that all apart, pull the springs out, clean everything up, and everything else looks good. These are all the little parts in there. They all have to be sealed. I'm going to take all the grease that's on there off, even though it is modern, and I'm going to apply the grease myself when I put it back together to make sure it's all fresh and good for another 25, 30 years. Yeah, everything looks okay on this one. Nothing's broke. I have a minor adjustment to do on the speed control. Other than that, it's just straightforward cleaning. But this is what the improved motor looks like when it's all in pieces. And improved mostly. One thing they improved, I guess, was they put both springs in one barrel. And the governor is straight. Instead of being at a slight angle like it is on the other motor, it's straight on this one. It's flat. And it oriented this way instead of this way. You know, both motors work just fine. It's just different. It's not, one's not better than the other. It's just different, that's all. And if you ever need to know what size springs you have in the barrel, let's see if I can find it here. This is a greasy mess. Oh, usually they're right there. And I did that. There we go. See it? Or it says 17 right there in the middle of the screen? Yeah, that's 17-foot spring. 1.25 inches by 17 times 2, because there are 2 springs in there. And I believe this one, hard to see under all that grease, but I think this is going to be above 1920 because it's going to have a bent end in the middle and a hooked end here on the outside. See? Bent end under all that filth and grease is going to be a hooked end. Let me see if I can scrape some of that off there. Maybe we can take a look. Oh boy, it's a mess. Yeah, I'm going to have to actually put this in solvent before I even try to take the springs out. It's just too much grease on there. I'm not used to it being so liquid. Let's see. Yeah, with a gap like that there, that has to be a bent end. Yeah, that's bent end. Okay. If need be, I think I actually have some of those in stock. I don't think it needs to be changed. I think it just needs to be properly cleaned. That's all. I'll know more once they're out. And I could, see what's going on. The other motor's already been cleaned. I haven't tested it yet. I need to rig it up in something so I could spin it up to speed and set the speed for one thing, and make sure the grease is properly distributed on it before I wrap it up and it goes back to its home. Which I will also do with this one. Not tonight. It's getting late. Probably tomorrow. I'm going to let the springs soak in solvent overnight, make my job a little easier in the morning to scrub them up. Same with the parts. Let them all sit there in the solvent. Let it go to work on the heavy deposits and soften them up a bit. Makes life a lot easier when it comes time to actually do some scrubbing. And the other side of this. This has the glassine window for the speed control. This has the auto stop. Obviously a mahogany machine, while the other one was oak. This one you've seen me play with many, many times. I've done all kinds of 9s, 11s. Those are pretty common in the world of, whoops, my finger's in the screen. World of Victrolas. They made more 9s and more 11s than any other machine. Oh, well, I think it starts with the 11. That's the most prolific. Then I think it goes to the 6, then the 9, and the 4. Between those 4 machines, I think each one of them topped 600,000. I mean, there's a lot of them around. The Victrola 50, that's another one that was really, really popular. Then you start getting into the more expensive machines. You know, if we're talking about the teens, then it's going to be the 14 and the 16. Those are hugely expensive in their time. You know, the 11, that was within the reach of most middle-class incomes. And anybody could afford a 4 eventually, or a 6, you know, or the 8. You know, I don't think they made as many 8s, but they do turn up quite a bit. I have another one, so, you know, they do turn up quite a bit. So they were pretty, I forget the numbers they made, though. I'd have to look that up. I don't have that information right in front of me. And it was no problem putting the other motor back together. The springs turned out to be fine. There were no cracks, no breaks, no splits, no buggered up spots, no rust deposits, nothing. It was good. They cleaned up. I put it back in the barrels with fresh grease, fresh oil, put it all back together, and she's good. Another thing I noticed on this, that's always a dead giveaway. Somebody slightly shortened the clip. I'm going to go grease even. This has been slightly shortened now, when I could tell, because there was a gap. It wasn't quite fitting perfectly. It's doing its job. There's nothing wrong with that. But that is a telltale sign that somebody had this off and they were unable to get it back in there. It takes 3 hands to get it back in there. It's tough. It's under pressure. And you really got to work at it. There's a few tricks, but you really got to work at it. And I always notice that somebody shortens these. I can always tell when someone's been in there at some point in the past. And I saw that today. So right away I knew. Well, I knew when I saw the modern grease, but when I saw that clip had been a little bit short, I said, aha, okay, I know what happened here. I know. Nothing wrong with that. If you have to do it, you have to do it. I believe they use hydraulic pressure at the factory to squeeze those clips in there, so you may not be able to do it. I usually manage it after I struggle with them for a while, but it takes a little practice. But even if you shorten them slightly to make it easier, it's still going to hold. It's not going to go rocketing off of there or anything like that. You're good. The improved Victrola motor. My guess, 1920 or 21 or 22, maybe all the way up to 26.